Hey, this is Brent Leary, and as I like to refer to it, this is the new BBC, the Brent Broadcasting Channel here on LinkedIn Live. At least that's the way I feel about it sometimes. But this is a great way to kind of wind down the week and kind of look ahead to the next week. Because with me right now, I have Dennis Massengill, and Dennis is, I want to make sure I get your title right, the Senior Director of Worldwide Marketing Programs and Business Operations for SAS. So
that
Dennis,
is a mouthful, Brent.
but I appreciate you being here, man. Thanks for joining me.
Absolutely. Good to be here on a Friday.
Good Friday, and it's going to be a really interesting and good week ahead for you and potentially 25,000 of your closest friends as you guys do SAS Global Forum, and it's virtual this year. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but you got to tell me, how long have you been working at SAS?
Oh man, Brent, I can't believe you're going to start there. So I'm an old timer. I've been there 32 years. I started when I was 12. So just make sure you get down for the record. But yeah, no, I've been there a while. So I'm considered a little bit of an old timer there. And I've mainly been in, that was a mouthful of a title there, but I've always been kind of on front line with customers in either sales or marketing. So always kind of on the front line there. I've always enjoyed that, and SAS has afforded me a lot of opportunity to do a lot of things over 32 years.
And just from hearing your accent, I'm going to guess that you are from Canada.
From New Jersey, exit 3. Yeah, no. Yeah, born and raised North Carolinian. Absolutely, you can kind of tell. So I'll apologize. I'll try to speak maybe a little faster because I do have a little bit of a drawl.
That's okay, and I know your heel has a little bit of tar on it too. So
it's got
a
lot of tar on it. You can rest assured.
Hey, so I mentioned that next week is SAS Global Forum. It's virtual this year. Maybe you could just fill us in on how different this is going to be compared to the way that you usually do Glass Forum events.
Yeah, I tell you, it is we've had to make 2 or 3 major pivots with this, Brent. It was originally going to be in Washington, D.C. in late March, and that was right about the time, if you remember, when we saw all of this coming over from, and we had some heads up based on some of our international operations over in Asia Pacific and Europe, and we were pretty sure that things were going to pivot for us, and we were going to have to probably delay. So we delayed and said, hey, we won't be coming at you in April, but we'll put on a virtual event and do some things in early May. And we got some of it done in May. It was a little bit trickier than we had anticipated to pivot and do that. But for our users program, which is really, really big for our users, where they contribute a lot of content, and they had a lot of this work already done, so we didn't want to shortchange them. So we kind of said, we'll kind of take a page out of Netflix's book, and we'll do a season 1 of content, a season 2. And a season 3. And so we've released 2 seasons, if you will, of kind of user-oriented content out on YouTube. And we would culminate things with our big virtual event and try to capture as best we can the things that we'd have done if we'd have been in Washington, D.C. live back in March. So that's all going to go down on Tuesday.
Very good. And so before we get deeper in, let's talk a little bit about, we're currently in the pandemic. It's been going on for several months. I know that has, of course, impacted the conference, but it's also impacted your customers. So maybe you could talk a little bit about how SAS is helping their customers get through this.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like we said, it definitely impacted the conference, and it's impacted it. It's impacted that in a positive way. Actually, we have a much broader audience now that typically people would like to come, but maybe they have travel or budget issues or whatever. And now it's open, and so we've got thousands and thousands of people that are going to be joining next week. But from a customer standpoint, you'll hear this, Brent, if you tune in next Tuesday, from a lot of our customers that are going to be presenting on our behalf. As these companies kind of cope with COVID-19, they're really choosing analytics to help them. Really 3 things: respond to the pandemic, plan for its recovery, and then really reimagine their business once this thing is in our rear view mirror, hopefully. So as SAS, a kind of tenured company that I tend to like to think knows a little bit about analytics. We're working closely with a lot of these organizations to really help them make, really better, smarter, faster decisions based on data. Decisions like, how can I bring needed medical supplies to patients, or strengthen the fight against fraud, or help manage my risk better, or optimize manufacturing my supply chain, or just simply I need to know who my customers are even more so than ever and do what I can for them. So all of these elements really are going to be on display at virtual SAS Global Forum next week.
So when you think about the term digital transformation and maybe even the approach that your customers were taking to that term pre-COVID, how has it changed during COVID and probably extending on after we get past the pandemic?
Well, for a lot of companies, it's 100%, but us being in the tech business, we were pretty well positioned. There's always areas where you can transform your way of doing business, but in all honesty, we had never really done a completely virtual digital event like we're pulling off next week. So it was a pretty significant change and a significant pivot for us. But for the backbone of our business, using data, using analytics to drive our decisions and moving it forward, I mean, that's what we talk about with prospects and customers every day. So that part of our business didn't have to change much, but the things that we were used to doing in terms of just putting on events in various cities around the world had to totally change. And that was a major thing for us, and we're still learning. I'm not saying that it's going to be perfect or we've gotten it right, but I run a daily Scrum call, and I tell you, we were knocking out issues today, still at the last minute here, just because we haven't done this before, and there's no rule book for it. There's no manual to follow, so you just got to get in and get your hands dirty and move forward and see what it does. Now, I tell you, the scrums that we're going to run afterwards on the lessons learned and what are we going to do next time, that's where it's going to be crucial. But we're getting there. I feel good about where we've ended up so far.
I like that we had a chance to talk for a few minutes before. I liked how you talked about, TV shows and kind of Netflix, because quite honestly, you're gonna be competing with people that are sitting in their office with 5 different like laptops and iPads and things, and it's so easy to transition away to something else if you're not thoroughly being informed and kind of entertained with what you're currently watching. So it sounds like you guys have taken that into consideration.
Well, you have to. It's like you said, the attention span is small, and you're fighting for it. The good news is about a virtual event too is it's not gone when it's over. So if somebody's busy or they found the next best thing on Netflix to watch on Tuesday at noon, then they just come back on Wednesday, Thursday, a week from now, a month from there. It's going to be there. I mean, we've got some live segments, and we've got a lot of engagement, Brent, that's built in that really will, I think, be helpful for people who do tune in live. But if not, it's there for on demand, and that is a good thing about it.
I'm going to pop up a little screen there that shows what's going on a little bit. So why don't you take us through a little bit of like the theme and maybe some of the folks that are involved and some of the things that people should be on the lookout for.
Yeah, well, you see that kind of trio there up front. That's our founder and CEO, Dr. Goodnight, and Oliver Schabenberger, our chief operating officer, and I'm sure everybody recognizes Simon Sinek as well. And we decided to have Simon this year at Global Forum, mainly because, quite honestly, way back in January at our sales kickoffs, Oliver Schabenberger, he really started quoting Simon's book back then, and he's actually going to sit down with him on Tuesday and kind of do a fireside chat a little bit. But he started referencing his book at our kickoffs in January, and in that book, he always talks about there's really no such thing as a winning business. In a game that's played with no finish line, no agreed upon rules, no metrics, it's impossible to end up and say, hey, I'm winning, I'm the best, I'm number one, or I beat the competition. So in his book, The Infinite Game, there's really only ahead and behind. You can't really be anywhere else. And over these past months, what we've seen with some of our customers and even us, quite honestly, is you've really got the importance of agility, as we just talked about, just pivoting with this event, resilience, kind of a growth oriented mindset, and a long-term vision. It's more vital than ever. And those organizations that pivot and take advantage of that, Oliver has always, he's during these chats that he'll do online with the employee base, he's often said, hey, these companies don't ask, how do I get through this? These companies are asking, how do I change to get through this? So, I feel that Dr. Goodnight has operated that way for, 32 years of my career. I've seen it and for 40 years that the company has been there, really putting people in front of profit, taking that long-term view and just doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. So it just seemed totally appropriate to have Simon at our virtual SAS Global Forum to really inspire attendees, because he's kind of been inspiring us through Oliver since the beginning of the year.
I'm glad that Dr. Goodnight is still front and center for this, because I think it was about 10 years ago. He was actually the first video interview / conversation I ever did. And it was
I don't think I realized that. That's cool.
Yeah, it was it was in Vegas, and it was one of the global forums. And I was extremely nervous because for whatever reason, and I have to thank Angela Lipscomb, because she's the one who set it up. She just said, hey, would you like to interview Dr. Goodnight? I was like, really? He would talk to me? And I was nervous, but he was so easy for me to talk to. He answered all my questions, and it was a great conversation.
Yeah, he's very disarming. Really cool. It can be intimidating. He's 6'5" and he sits down there, but yeah, he's super good guy. Yeah. So
what are some of the sessions that you think people should be aware of?
Well, I tell you, we have got, the first, call it 90 minutes to 2 hours. That's where you're going to see Dr. Goodnight kind of give some updates. We're going to be making some major announcements on some global partnerships that we're doing of really bringing analytics to the cloud. I won't go into more detail than that. I've been told by our PR people, don't let the cat out of the bag too much on that. We're going to obviously have some major software announcements of our own here. We've got things like, let me think here, the virtual quad. That's like a classic SAS Global Forum thing. Think of it as terms of a trade show, but instead of a bunch of different booths with companies, these are just different booths showcasing some of our different technologies and solutions. And we've got, see if I can remember them. There's 5 of these area booths, if you will. There's analytics, there's artificial intelligence, cloud, IoT, and then our kind of vertical-based solutions by industry and some of our cross-industry solutions. And we'll have people manning chat forum-like rooms. If you don't get all your questions answered, or you want to go into something deeper, then we put a little button there that says, hey, I'd like to have a meeting, schedule a meeting with SAS that we can do post-conference and bring in whatever expert we need there. We're going to have super demos live that are going on. These are kind of big idea kind of demos. One kind of cool one is we've got some beehives back in Cary, North Carolina, and we're going to be doing a demo on the monitoring of the bee activity in the beehives using IoT and computer vision. So that'll be kind of cool to check out too. So we've got a lot of interactivity, a lot of engagement plan, some gamification aspects. So we're looking forward to it.
Beehives and IoT devices. Now that's some cool stuff.
Can you imagine? Yeah.
That's some cool stuff. I mean, but you think about there is probably going to be an accelerated need to understand how to leverage this data going forward, and it's coming from everywhere. And so how do you think what are things going to look like a year from now, after we're kind of past this? I'm hoping we're past it by then. But what do you think it's going to be looking like, and how are customers going to be leveraging, not only leveraging data, but doing things that they have never done before to get this kind of data that they never had access to before? What is that going to look like in a year or so?
Well, I tell you what, I could end that question in about 2 seconds and give you the Dr. Goodnight answer, where she says, a year from now, Well, I don't look more than 6 months. I mean, 6 months is all I can do. So, but a year from now, wow, I tell you what we're seeing certainly is just the sheer growth of customers who have just really gotten over the hump now and said, I trust the cloud. I trust the cloud. I can put my data out there. I feel good about it. I realize it's a shared responsibility on security here, but yeah, I feel pretty good about that. And just by lightening the load on home data centers, if you will, and being able to just exponentially all this data that you mentioned, so much of it coming from so many different things. I mean, think about it. We're getting data on individual bees in a beehive, so it comes from everywhere. And I don't know. I guess you can call me biased, but we tend to be pretty good with large amounts of data and doing some analysis on it. So I think we're just going to see that, Brent, just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And the more data you got, that's how you train big models. That's how you get really good results. So it's just going to get bigger and better, I think, in certainly a year and years from now is what it's going to do.
And
that's kind of generic. That's hard to argue with there, Brent. Come on.
I'm not arguing with it at all.
Okay.
But what about some of the kind of the things that or terms that have kind of become normalized now, I guess, with the pandemic, with touchless, serverless, touchless, cashierless, things that are that people, buying groceries online, where before you would just go to the store, but now a lot of people, have been forced into doing things like buying things online, buying groceries online. Eventually things will, open up again, but some folks will be like, hey, you know what? I like being able to buy groceries online. I didn't think I would, but now I do.
Yeah.
So your behavior is going to be changed permanently. So how do companies align themselves to not only collect the data, but actually form the business model around their customers, changing expectations that will allow them to get data that will help them out?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I tell you, another one of those terms you're hearing that aligns to this is the new normal, the new normal. And, just a super quick story as an aside before I answer you. Here in North Carolina, we've some of the restaurants have opened up at, I guess it's half capacity, 50% capacity. And I went out for the first time last week to one of my favorite Mexican restaurant, and it just felt weird. It felt weird to walk in. It felt weird to sit down to see who was, around me. And a lot of these restaurants have not even opened at half capacity. They've said, it doesn't pay for me to do that. I can be more profitable just by doing my takeout business than I can at, bringing in a portion of my wait staff and a few more cooks or whatnot. So, I mean, I'm not deep into the restaurant business, but just what I saw there. But I think our customers are seeing some similar type trends. So being able to know who those good customers are, because the ones that stuck by you and did things with you during this pandemic, they're the ones you got to take care of down the road as well. So we're seeing people use software and services around really just what I call customer intelligence. I know you're big into the CRM area, so that's what it's about: knowing those great customers, sticking by them, rewarding them because they're going to be there for you. So it's the models have changed. It's a new normal in a lot of different ways, but what has not changed is really just, as we talked about earlier, every single transaction, every single thing you do in a business generates some kind of data, some kind of data point. And as you well know, a data point's a point. 2, you can draw a line, and 2, you can get a trend. So it's going to be interesting, that, like you said, cashierless, touchless, but with that becomes the need for more and more data, and with that, the need to analyze it. So I love it.
And it's not only just more data, but it's actually you have to do something with it quickly. You just can't collect a lot of data, but you've got to actually
can't get stale.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us what you want people to walk away from after they get a chance to virtually attend the Global Forum.
Well, like I said, we've got a lot of stuff in store. I hope that they come on that your audience comes on the live day, because of the interactivity, and we haven't done this before, so we'd like to get some good feedback as well on how we did with it. But all from the whole thing of gamifying, we've done the kind of the classic, but made it virtual, of where, hey, if you go and watch maybe this presentation, or you go in and see this booth, or you watch Simon's presentation, you can earn points and badges. So we've gamified it, and the top point guys and gals on the leaderboard will get some SAS swag at the end of the day. But at the end of the virtual day, if you will, it's all about the personal experience. So we've made it. We've got over, wow, Brent, I think it was at this morning's scrum, I think we had 327 different kind of ways or assets that people can interact with SAS during this event. And it's personalized. SAS, as you well know, is a broad portfolio of solutions and tools. So a lot of people will use it for this or that, or even this and that. So you can choose your own path, figure out what interests you, find your way through it, get your questions asked, talk to a live human being, chat with a live human being, see people live giving demos. It's just fun to actually see some live stuff these days. So
Absolutely. Now, tell people where they can go and register and learn more about the conference.
obviously, we make it super easy. SAS.com. You just go there. You're going to see it on the homepage banner, and you can go in and register. All we ask is a quick email address, and you will actually get an email come Monday, and you'll get another one on Tuesday, just reminding you with the link to click on. And when you're in, we've got a nice virtual environment set up, and yeah, come on out. We'd love to have you.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. But before I let you go here, because you are down in the Tar Heel country,
Oh yeah.
The Last Dance.
Oh. It's been my saving grace during the pandemic. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was the fastest 5 weeks of being trapped at home that have ever gone by, at least on the Sundays.
Right. So after you watch The Last Dance, and it's kind of nice that leading up to the Global Forum, that you had The Last Dance to kind of watch on the weekend. Get any ideas? Did you take anything away from what was going on there? And Brent, so you incorporated it into what we're going to see next week?
I would love to say that you're going to see a lot of number 23 and Carolina blue and the Julian uniforms, or the Bulls, or whatever it was. That for me, they didn't focus quite enough on the UNC Carolina days. That was only in that first episode there. But I think the main thing is content is king. And that was so good. It kept people coming back. And I am really hoping that that's what we got going on Tuesday. Content's king. So we want them coming and coming back.
And the great thing about your content is that it'll be available for a while.
You got it.
It's going to be there. It's going to be evergreen. And so even, you sign up, and even if you can't see everything, they'll be able to, you'll get like an email or something and let you know, hey, the content is there. Come get it.
It is there, and it will be there, so you can do it. If you're just making you a sandwich one day at lunch and you want to watch one of the sessions, or what won't be there, and that's what we're trying to get people is just, obviously we can't have people manning the chat forums and everything for weeks and months afterwards. So they were concentrating on that day for the true live engagement, but for everything else, it'll be there for your own personal consumption at your own pace.
And Simon Sinek is great.
He is. Yeah, he is. Yeah, we're looking forward to that kind of fireside chat, if you will. So it should be good.
All right, Dennis. Hey, I really appreciate you taking time to give us a little preview, let us know what's going on, and also sharing stories of how Michael Jordan, you really got in there.
Absolutely. Anytime. Right. I appreciate it, Brent. Thank you.
Take care.
All right. See you now.